So good evening, and welcome to Confronting Injustice. I'm your host, Linda Solomon. Today, we are not just having a conversation, we're standing in the intersection of possibilities and change. Across this country, people are asking deeper questions. Who does our government truly serve? Whose voices are being heard, and whose are still being overlooked? For far too long, many have felt that leadership has catered to the privileged few, while everyday people, the workers, the caregivers, the survivors, the community builders, have been asked to wait, to struggle, and to make do. But tonight, we explore something different. We are joined by two individuals who are not only running for office, but who are running with lived experience, with a deep understanding of what it means to navigate systems that too often fail the very people they are meant to serve. Andrea James and Joe Tashe represent a growing shift in leadership, one rooted not in power for power's sake, but in accountability, equity, and humanity. Their campaigns are not just built on polished slogans. They are built on stories, on struggles, on resilience, and on a belief that government should reflect the people it serves. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome both of you, Andrea and Joe, to Confronting Injustice.
Thank you
so much, Linda.
I was so excited to have both of you here because, for a number of reasons, but you both lead people-led campaigns. And that's just, in this political climate, it's just, I want people to know what that means and what it means for them, right? So can we start with each of you just telling a little bit about who you are and why you decided to run for office?
Definitely. You want to go first?
Sure. Andrea James, thank you, Linda, and thank you, Joe. Thank you for this amazing opportunity to sit with you and have this conversation. I am Andrea James. I am a product of Roxbury, Massachusetts, born and raised, come from a family, 7 generations, 5 in the same, this old house. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a former criminal defense attorney, I'm a formerly incarcerated woman, and I am somebody who leads one of the most effective and important organizations, local, national, and international, that works on ending incarceration of women and girls, but not just that, creating what does different look like. How can we use our resources better that is not a focus on policing and not a focus on prisons, but actually putting those resources to work in the communities, which is not difficult in a place like Massachusetts because the people who are incarcerated come from the same communities. We're talking about issues of ending poverty, of lack of putting resources into the needs of the people. And that's why I'm running, because we've got 1.7 million people that have been completely ignored. Generation after generation, the numbers have grown in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so I'm running for that reason.
Okay, 1.7 million people is incredible. And the numbers are probably larger than that.
It's unconscionable, is what it is. It's completely unconscionable that whether it's a Republican, we've had Republican governors, we've had Democratic governors, we've had electeds across the state from all levels of government, and nobody has made a point of stopping and pausing and saying, why are 1.7 million people not interested in the electoral process? And what is that we're not doing? What are we doing intentionally to have people, particularly formerly incarcerated people in the Commonwealth, who don't think they can vote, which I want everybody in the sound of my voice to hear me say. If you are currently in a county jail, you can vote. Demand your ballot. If you are formerly incarcerated, you have the right to vote in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And reach out to me, reach out to Joe. We will help you figure out how to register and to be engaged in this election.
Wonderful. And so I'm glad that you're bringing this issue to the table now.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, it's important. I was telling Andrew before we started that we were just petitioning to get our campaign on the ballot, and I ran into at least half a dozen people myself who said that they would be willing to sign, but they thought they couldn't vote because they have a felony conviction. So there's an intentional disenfranchisement of our people that's happening, and we want to educate our folks about the power of being part of this movement, not just in using your vote, but your voice.
That's
but
right.
My name's Joe Taché. I'm running for U.S. Senate here in Massachusetts with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I live in Roxbury. I was actually born in Philadelphia, but I came to Boston for school. I went to Northeastern University, and another Northeastern alum.
Now they're Northeastern alum.
That's right. And I started school I was a business major at school because I was growing up in an era of the first Obama administration, and I'd been told that we had solved the problems of racism in our society, that we lived in a post-racial society. And then Trayvon Martin was killed when I was in high school. And I was born in 1995, which is the same year as Trayvon. And so seeing this young man who was demonized, his murder justified, and ultimately his killer was acquitted and is still out on our streets today, it really struck me that something is deeply wrong in our society still. So I went to college wanting to make as big an impact on society as I could, and I knew even back then as an 18-year-old that money is power in our society. So I figured that if I can be a business major, make a lot of money, then I can do a lot of good things with it. And then over the course of my time at Northeastern University in my classes and also at some internships I did, I learned what these corporations do to make all that money. And you use the word unconscionable. It was unconscionable to me that we're living in a society where a small group of people continuously increase their own wealth while we don't have the funding, or say we don't have the funding to meet people's basic needs of housing, healthcare, education, all these other things. And that led me to looking to the history of our social movements here in Boston and all across the country, and in particular the history of the Black liberation movement, the civil rights movement, and all these people I learned about and admired. I was like, oh, they all critique capitalism. A lot of them were socialists. Maybe I should start looking into that. And that's what led me to get involved with my party, the PSL, in 2018. And I've been a youth worker in Boston since, running after-school programs, summer programs, teaching in GD programs. But I've dedicated all the time that I can to building this movement because I think everybody can feel that we are at a crossroads in our society right now. And clearly Donald Trump is very unpopular among millions of people across our state and across the country. But also, let's not pretend that the pre-Trump status quo was all that desirable for people either. And we have to inspect the political and economic system that has arisen somebody like Donald Trump, and how we build a movement that can actually defeat him and build a society, in the richest society in the world, where people's needs are actually met. And I think it's very important that we build that movement outside of the two-party system. You're running as an independent as well, so I'm hoping we can get into that conversation, but I'm really happy to be here with you both.
Listen.
I think Joe raises a really good point when he talks about this. I want to just go back to it for a minute and, put some light on that. We're not talking about just returning us back to a status quo in say, a Democratic Party, that in just looking at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we have 60% of currently engaged and enrolled voters are unenrolled. They are independents. Now, independent doesn't mean we're all, to the left, to the far right. Most actually land in the middle, and for me, that's very fascinating to talk to the people to figure out if you describe yourself as a fiscally conservative person, why aren't you a Republican? And to really understand the middle of the road for people who say that they are independent and have unenrolled, because their needs still are not being addressed.
Right.
And so we're not doing these types of campaigns to return us, to just say, well, if we just get rid of Donald Trump, if we just get more Democrats into Congress, if we just get keep our Democratic governor, everything is going to be okay, because it's not okay for the people that we are working on behalf of, not only on behalf of, but that we are of, and so I think it's really important for us to make that distinction.
I totally agree. And so what I hear you saying that is, because my question was, the question was, why is it important to be aware of the fact that there's more than two parties here. And there are more than two parties, but I think most people hear Democrat and Republican, that's it. That the playing ground is wider than that. And why is it really, really important for people to understand that they do have options? I think people have been socialized to believe either you're this or that, kept in this box intentionally. But if you could speak to why is like the foundation of that, not necessarily the two parties, but that people should know that there's more than two parties and why
you have a choice.
Right. And why and I think you already explained why you chose to not subscribe to either one of them. But just for people who, you spoke a bit about being independent. And Joe, you're independent as well.
Yeah, independent of the two corporate parties. And I think it's important because people generally have positive or progressive values, I'd say, in our society. Like, people believe that you should have opportunity to get education, that people should have a roof over their head, that people should have health care. All these things are generally popular issues, but we don't get to really vote on those issues. In the two-party system, we get to vote for elected officials who belong to either the Democratic or Republican parties and actually don't deliver on any of the change that people desire. Okay. I thought it was very interesting when, in 2024, when Donald Trump won the presidential election, even in states where he won, when abortion access was put on the ballot as a referendum question, voters who voted for Donald Trump also voted to enshrine abortion rights in their state. I think it was in Missouri that the state voters voted to increase the minimum wage, and they also voted for Donald Trump. So you can see this contradiction that exists within people, and it's because the two-party system offers a false choice, where you're choosing between two parties that are actually funded by and beholden to the billionaire class that's causing the problems. And then they make us look at each other like we're each other's enemies, instead of understanding that the problems in our society are caused by the billionaires. So I think that it's really important to build awareness of an alternative, because over the 30 years of my life, I've been seeing a long-term decline in the quality of life for people across our country and people across the world. And it's because we go back and forth on this seesaw between the two parties of politicians who actually don't represent us. And until we get off that ride, we're going to keep going on this spiral downwards. And I don't want to see that for another 30 years. And that's why we're building outside the two-party system.
Right. Wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that it's important because, we decided to run. I decided to run because I needed the issues that the people that were not being heard, that were feeling marginalized and left out, to really talk about it. And capitalism doesn't allow you to have those conversations. And when, as Joe said, we have a two-party system that's a duopoly. Sometimes some of the Republican candidates that are running sound more progressive than the current governor. We know it's all a farce. They are have secured, Trump and his agenda, the people who are running in the Republican slots. But we also have a Democratic governor who is very clear about being in opposition to the very things that people need in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. She's not in support of rent control. Why? Because of the real estate corporations that, are the huge donors
money.
And funding the campaign. She was not in favor of a wealth tax that we know we need to do more of. We've got a minimum of 25 billionaires, never mind millionaires. Surtax was on millionaires. We need to advance that idea significantly. But really, the issue for me is the lack of discussion. The two parties hold us in a place where we aren't even allowed to have a conversation about what different can look like. And in one of the wealthiest states in the country, where the current administration has placed its priorities, and where we could place our priorities that lift from the bottom and close all the gaps and allow everyone in the Commonwealth to thrive. But holding those establishment parties in place allows people to believe that there is no choice, and that they can only do as well as the Democratic Party tells us that we will be allowed to accomplish, to do. And so I'm running, I was saying to Joe before we got started, I mean, he's a phenomenal young leader. It's why we need people like Joe to run, and why we need people like me who are elders in the movement space to do this as well, because
Absolutely.
they will come for me just because I want to put the issues on the table and not allow them to continue to marginalize people, not talk about the very issues that are harming people throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and then also be the one that can break up this so that we can make more room for younger, smarter people who don't have to be afraid, because we've already put these issues squarely on the table and aired them out, you know, and that's what this campaign, the intention is to win. We are not running to just for show. We are running to win.
Absolutely.
But we are running also with the purpose of building a people-led movement, because there is so much more that we can do on behalf of, you know, families, working families, unemployed families, underemployed families,
Absolutely.
people. And so I think it's really important. We have to talk about capitalism. We can't be afraid to talk about it. We can't be afraid of any labels they want to put on us.
It's the elephant in the room. How can we not talk about it? How is it that healthcare, education, everything is a struggle for working class people, and everything is a struggle for people who are not wealthy? And the system is not going to change unless there are people like the two of you who are unapologetically and without fear speaking the truth. This people-led campaign, things change when people feel empowered, when they recognize that they have a voice. And so I hear you saying with this people-led campaign that you are for about the people.
100%. I mean, we both come out of social movements. You said 15 years, right, that you've been doing this work.
Well, longer, but
Longer.
I came out in 15. I left organizing inside of a prison 15 years ago,
Okay.
and so yeah, I grew up in a movement family, so this is what we do.
So decades. I've been organizing for 10 years myself, and the thing that I've learned in my experience and learning from U.S. history as well is that any meaningful change in our country's history has been made through the collective action of many people.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And I also take inspiration a lot from Boston history, and there's two people whose names I want to make sure we bring forward, and Chuck Turner and Mel King, who
That's
were
right.
organizing legends here in Massachusetts, and also who ended up becoming elected officials as part of a movement to break from the two-party system themselves with the Green Rainbow Party. But you look at the impacts that they've made on our society. It wasn't just because they got into an office and they did some things to save everybody else. They understood the importance of bringing people into the movement, involving people in collective action, and understanding that it's always bigger than just one individual person. And so that's one thing that I want to challenge in building this campaign as well is I'm not saying if you elect me to the U.S. Senate, I'm going to solve all of your problems, because I'll be one senator among 99 others. The 99 others, for the vast majority, are backed by the same billion interests that we're running to oppose. So to really make this change, it's going to require people all across our state, all across the country, taking action together. But this campaign is a vessel to meet more of those people, to invite more of those people to participate. And yes, I'm hoping to win, to be elected to be a spokesperson and a representative of the movement in the halls of Congress. But ultimately, if I was to be elected in November and people said, great, Joe's in Congress, now we can go home and vote for him again in 6 years, that would be a failure to me. Versus if we're building this movement and after November 3rd, people are saying, well, what's next? What can I do next as a protagonist? Not just in using my voice at the ballot box, but in all the different ways that we can do that. That's what this is really about.
And I think what Joe is saying, and I think what we're both working towards is getting us to a place of the People's Assembly process, something that you cannot govern. Like Joe said, he's going to be one person that is very different in Congress. But going there and doing it is not going to solve every problem as much as he's going to fight. But what we need to do so that we can continue in these positions when Joe does become a member of Congress is to do things through a movement ecology forward-facing people assembly process, where we're consistently bringing people in to have the conversation. I was on a picket line, and I'm not going to talk about the union, or I'm not going to talk about even the company, but I went and they embraced me, and I talked to them on camera, and we posted a video about it on our campaign. And the heads of labor, these guys who are on the line, who have to take a vacation day if they're sick, that have worked there for 40 years, 20 years, 25 years, that make very little money, not enough. They have to work 6 days a week in order to make ends meet. Still, I'm talking about right now. And formed a union and went to the table to bargain with the company, a $1 billion company here in Massachusetts. And the company's response was to close the plant. And they're walking a picket line 24/7 right now as we're sitting here talking. And when I went back to show them the video, I was told to take the video down, and none of those guys, the workers, would speak to me. That's a problem.
Absolutely.
That's something.
Absolutely.
That's a problem, because when we only have a two-party system, and when whatever that party is in control, we now have Maura Healey as the governor. These unions and the people who represent them on the top levels, not the downline, not the rank and file, they are making decisions, and the rank and file must follow them to hopefully keep their jobs.
Right.
And to not, make it so that they will be ostracized in anywhere else that they have to go. And so that was disheartening,
I'm sure it was.
for me, because our goal was to help these rank and file guys who deserve to get some attention that nobody is paying to them, as the plant has closed and this $1 billion company just gets to leave these men and women who have been there for decades. These are the issues I want to talk about. And what does it mean when we have labor representation who will automatically side with the person who is a governor? Because out of what? I'd like to know. I'm asking. Out of what? Is it out of fear that you will not receive what,
Right.
the nod that the unions get to? So that's another tension that we cannot be afraid to talk about. And people are afraid to talk about the tensions that are happening within the labor of the rank and file and the top unions. These are issues I want to talk about. We've got to put them on the table. We've got to air them out.
Yeah. It's interesting. This makes me think about colonial time when the colonists were saying no representation. If we have no representation, then what? And this is a situation here now where we have these two parties. You either ascribe or you're under pressure, some pressure, and that shouldn't be the case. It's almost like people are being bullied, almost. Stay within these confines. Don't go too far to the right or to the left. And that's problematic, because the masses of the people are the ones who really have the control. And that's why your people-led campaign is major. People need to know that your voice matters, that you are. And I hear you saying, both of you, I see you, I hear you, I'm here to represent you, I'm here to stand in for you. Come along. Is what I hear both of you saying.
We are you.
That's right, that's right.
Exactly.
It's amazing. We've sort of normalized the abnormal. And so I appreciate both of you with this people-led campaign, being independent, being unafraid and unapologetic, stepping outside of that.
It's important. If I could just say, I think it is bullying, frankly. And if you look at the way that the majority of people in our state feel about the status quo, it's not great. And throughout the whole country, people don't trust the Republicans. They also don't trust the Democrats.
Right.
People don't trust the Supreme Court. They don't trust the corporate media. They don't trust Congress.
Legitimately so. Legitimately
Exactly.
so.
And so the only mechanisms then that the political establishment has is to use these tools of coercion to make people feel that if you step out of line, you're going to get beaten back. And so you could get a few crumbs or you can get the stick from the establishment. And people, I think, have accustomed themselves to the idea that a few crumbs are better than potentially having the whole rug pulled out from under you. But I think that we're at the point now in our society, with the Trump administration in particular, that we can understand the failures of that approach. I mean, even think about the fact that Trump is in office right now. It looked like his political career should have been over in January 2021. And instead, the Democratic Party, which controlled the White House and Congress between 2021 and 24, they promised that they're going to give us universal child care, free community college, student debt relief. We got none of that. They let the COVID-era safety nets expire. So you saw the largest modern-day increase in childhood poverty because of the expiration of those childhood tax credits in particular. We saw that billions of tax dollars were used to just to fund and to provide political cover for a genocide against the people in Gaza, which is still ongoing. That's what the Democratic Party did during their time in office. And then Trump on the campaign trail was allowed to go around and say, is your life better now or worse now than it was 4 years ago? And for most people, life had gotten worse under those 4 years of Biden and a Democratic-controlled Congress. So we have to understand that actually the failure of the two-party system to create, to deliver on the things that people want to see in their lives creates more of a window for a movement like Donald Trump to emerge and say, the reason that you're not getting your needs met is because of immigrants or because of DEI or transgender young people, whatever he says, instead of actually pointing the blame where it belongs, on the billionaires. And until we get out of that trap, we're going to keep finding ourselves in this cycle, not to mention these generational issues that we're facing. That I've been raised as a young person, for example, to think we need to address climate change by 2030, or else we're not going to have a planet to live on. We're not addressing climate change.
That's right.
You look at artificial intelligence, automation, and the job prospects for young people who are entering the market right now, it's terrible. Right. So there are these long-term issues that, again, are connected to the billionaire control of our society, AKA capitalism, and the two-party system. And in particular, the Democrats just want to act like if we return to the status quo, everything will be okay. And they're completely ignoring the fact that the status quo has put us in the position that we're in right now. Right. And I think that I'm completely sympathetic to people that are scared of breaking from the Democratic Party because they really do use thuggish methods to keep people in line. And I'll be curious to see what was said to those leaders who took the video.
Yeah. We can bring this, from the federal level to the state level and see where the priorities of the current Healy administration has been. We can make choices that don't focus on just appealing to the agenda of the corporations and wealthy donors. She has invested in AI. She is encouraging the state leadership directors in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to use ChatGPT from a very disturbing and dangerous company. She has invested in a prison for women. We have one of the lowest incarceration populations of incarcerated women in the country. $360 million to build a new prison. We, in Massachusetts, have the first women's prison in the country. 150 years ago, they opened MCI Framingham. If you're going to tell me, and we've done the research for more than a decade about what different could look like. How do we invest money like that in the communities where generation after generation these women come from? We have issues around not supporting rent control. We need rent control. We absolutely need rent control. Right now, the solutions that are coming down from our state government are solutions that are beholden to very wealthy donors and the corporations that support their campaigns. And so we can do lots of different things. We don't have to invest $47 million into defense contracts. These are choices, intentional choices that have been made. We can build housing. We can provide people with universal health care. We can, right now, which would be less expensive, even if it included a tax on whoever it's going to include, it is still less expensive than what business owners and individuals are paying for their health care right now. I have had the privilege of traveling the world as an expert on women in incarceration. And every country I've gone to has universal health care. They have free education, kindergarten through PhD. We have been sold a lie.
Absolutely.
And we have to acknowledge it, and we have to be willing at least to take our hands off of our ears and off of our eyes. We have so many progressive groups that literally will not sit down and have a conversation with me or invite me in to have a conversation with their people who have been fighting for decades for every single issue. And my platform is not complicated. It is very straightforward. It is universal health care, it's education, it's rent control, and it's taking care of people the way that they need to be taken care of.
All of which are no-brainers.
All of which are
that's
no-brainers.
Being humane.
We can't expect our utility bills to go down when DPU is controlled by the people who own utility companies should be publicly owned. We should have a public banking system.
Right.
We should have all of these things that a governor's office could build the infrastructure for. And I'll end with just saying this. The other thing we don't have is accountability. You want to compartmentalize who you want to define as somebody who created harm or caused something to happen or was convicted of a felony conviction. We have a legislature right now that is breaking the law every single day. The audit is not something that is a question anymore. It's not a ballot initiative. It's not a bill. The audit is the law. And every single day that we don't have a governor that is standing saying we need this audit, we need to know what's going on, taxpayers deserve it, and the people have spoken. So if we've spoken and passed it, and still there isn't an end road to it, that we're not getting an audit, we have to ask ourselves the question, why are we continue to uphold an administration that will not make sure this happens?
And I want our listeners to be clear. The audit is simply for those in leadership positions to be held accountable for what they're doing.
We're held accountable. You can't compartmentalize. You can't demonize people in perpetuity. It just doesn't. You shouldn't do that. But you are running the state. We're not auditing your personal bank account. We're auditing the state. And they should be accountable. They should be held accountable. And we should be standing on the tabletops demanding it. We should be sitting in at the State House, demanding that this happens today.
And just to be clear, and so the audit is basically an overview of what the governor should be doing, what they said they're doing.
No, it's for the legislature. So the audit is the audit is an audit, okay? Nonprofits are audited, we're audited, we do external,
That's
internal.
right. Held accountable.
We're held accountable as people who have been incarcerated, they've been held accountable. You cannot continue to uphold and pretend that we can rely upon a government that has zero transparency. So we need to move on things like that, and we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing this? Why are we continuing, also as progressive groups, to say, well, Andrea, I hear what you're saying. I believe in your platform. Actually, every single one of those things we've been fighting for a decade or two, but we're still going to hold this democratic platform in place. I just can't understand it.
And the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over, expecting a different response. This is not a time to pivot. This is a time for dramatic change. And it's not going to happen unless people become involved and take a stand. And I think one of the things that the system has done has disempowered people. The system has led people to believe that their one voice or one vote doesn't make a difference.
That's right.
And I know for both of you, both campaigns, it's if people feel like they want to get involved or learn more, the opportunity is there in both campaigns. What can people do if they want to get involved or learn more? Because I believe that there's an energy that some people who are really concerned about just the quality of their life and the people around them, then there has to be some energy or some feeling that things are just not okay. And it's okay to have that feeling, but what can they do about it? Like, who can they connect with to get more information, to maybe get involved?
100%. Well, I don't blame people if they feel like their vote doesn't matter, because, again, if I had just been voting for Democrats my entire life for the last 30 years, I feel like my vote didn't matter. And I think that the spirit of these campaigns is a break from that status quo, which is we're not going to continue to do the same thing over and over again, but we also do know for a fact that in the richest country in the world, we have the means to meet every single person's needs here in Massachusetts and all throughout the country.
That's right.
If we just use that wealth to prioritize people's needs instead of lining the pockets of the ultra rich already. So that faith is based on the reality of what our society is capable of doing, and now it's the question of what are we capable of doing, or can we build a movement that's powerful enough to actually to make that a reality. And our campaigns, I think, are efforts to continue to build those blocks. So for my campaign in particular, you can learn about it at tacheforma.com or Tache for MA on social media. We just collected 20,000 signatures in 15 days to get on the ballot, and so we're going to be on the ballot in November, and it's just a question now of getting the word out to 7 million people all across our state. So we need volunteers on the ground. We're not bankrolled by super PACs or big corporations, so we don't have those millions of dollars on hand to reach people. It's going to take a grassroots movement for people to get involved, and we invite people to do that to November 3rd and afterwards.
Wonderful. And we'll put that information on the screen when we view this for sure. How can people get involved? And let me just say, there are people sitting at home who want to do something but don't know what to do. They know that we should have free health care. People shouldn't choose between buying food and buying medicine. They shouldn't have to worry about going to work and they have no one to watch the children. It doesn't make sense. And so if you want something different,
And all of those things, we talk about affordability, and that term is thrown around like it's trite at the moment. But we talk about these things. But when we provide, I was a single mom. I was a young teenage single mother with my first kid. I know what it's like to get a voucher for daycare. It allowed me to go to college at the University of Massachusetts, where I was the president of the Black Student Center, co-president of the Women's Center. And, it provided me with the opportunity to get my education and then to go on to Northeastern University School of Law. That made a huge difference for me. I lived in a rent-controlled apartment, my daughter and I. I know what that meant in terms of affordability. I know what it's like to struggle to have your lights shut off. I remember dropping the big orange extension cord down. We're going back 100 years now. I'm a grandmother now. But, to drop it down to my neighbor, who was also a single mother underneath me, and when her lights went out, she'd throw the cord up to me so that our children, we would have at least one light in the apartment. I know what that feels like. I know what it's like to endure those things. And people are spending 40, 50% of their incomes on rent right now. So we've got to really just pause. You can say what you want to say about me, but you will only say something negative because you have not taken the time to know and understand who I am in my totality. One experience out of the alchemy of my life does not define me. And so I would encourage people, one, in my campaign, to not focus on all of the negative language about, well, she has a felony conviction, she was in prison. Yes, these are all true. They are one piece of an entire alchemy of an amazing lifetime that I have had on the ground, boots on the ground, working with people. Right. The other thing is that people can just pour in. We don't have corporate money. We would never take it. We're not taking PAC money. Our average donation is between $5 and $20, and we are running a statewide campaign. This is a people-led campaign. Right. The only people that we are going to be beholden is ourselves, the people. And so I would say, please come on over to ajforma.com and have a conversation. Don't make a decision about anything, because they want us to focus on everything wrong, so that they can continue to do wrong. And so just come in with an open mind. Come in and hear about what we're working on and why. Vote for Joe. Vote for Joe. Absolutely. Because the power of the people is what makes everything else pay attention. It's the only thing that can beat money. that can beat money.
Right.
And so I'm under no illusion I'm up against 4 millionaires who will pull out every stop and throw every piece of mud to
Yep.
try and derail this campaign. But it's why I'm running as an elder in this space. Let me take on the heat, and let me take on these issues and get us to the finish line. So vote for Joe, that's one. Vote for me,
There you
that's
go.
two. And let's really work in partnership with the people to demonstrate what different looks like.
And what different, I think about my grandchildren.
Yeah.
I think about having the hope, having the idea that there is a possibility for things to get better.
Yeah.
And I recognize that things are not going to get better unless people get involved. And it doesn't matter what your economic status is. You don't have to be a college graduate.
That's right.
You can be someone who was formerly incarcerated. It doesn't matter. Your voice matters, and you need to be at the table. You need to be seen. You need to be acknowledged. And
Your
so
expertise matters,
there you go.
particularly in times like now.
That's right. So my message is: don't sit at home and wish that you could do something. You can. You can do something. And it's just for the generations coming behind us. Like, we need you at the table. These corporations and these billionaires cannot continue to rule.
Right.
They just simply cannot. Closing words for each of you, or were those your closing words?
I'll just say, because I didn't say anything about the incumbent in this race, Senator Markey. He's been in Congress since 1976. That's half a century, and I think is really demonstrative of the change that we need to see, where he's, for his entire career, said progressive things. Right now he supports the Green New Deal, supports raising the minimum wage, supports universal child care, all things that the Democratic Party has failed to deliver on throughout the last 50 years. And
Last 50 years.
50 years, yeah, since 1976, many years before I was even born. So I think a lot of people in the state have asked why run against one of the more progressive senators in the whole country. And again, my question comes back to, or my answer comes back to the question of, do we really want to see a society in which all the things that we need are provided? And I think 50 years is long enough to demonstrate a theory of change that is not working. But I feel very confident in the fact that we really do have the means to meet everybody's needs in our society. We just need the power to do so.
Absolutely.
We're building that power, and I look forward to continuing to build the movement.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful.
Totally agree. And really, we need to put the focus, this is the Commonwealth, not the corporate wealth. And we need
Can you say that again?
It's the Commonwealth, meaning of the people. This
Yep.
state was intentionally created as a Commonwealth, meaning the people shall lead, not a corporate wealth. And that's what we have turned into. That's what the current governor is beholden to. And I'm running as an independent because I want people not to focus on a party line. I want people to focus on 4 issues. I want people to focus on universal health care in particular. This is absolutely necessary. I want
Absolutely.
people to have free education, and everybody isn't going to college. We need trade schools. We need to have the opportunity for adults, graduating seniors from our high schools, to have a viable pathway to being able to care for themselves and for their families. We need rent control, but we also need other areas of pathways into home ownership.
Absolutely.
We need opportunities for people. We have state land, we have state buildings. We could be putting a focus on building there that are in controlled cost controls. We need public banking. There's so much. It's absolutely exciting for me to be running because I get to talk about things that will literally lift from the bottom, create the affordability that people, that the mainstream and our current governor keep talking about, but continue to hold in place the things that are impeding people from being able to not just struggle to survive in Massachusetts, but to actually thrive. And we can do this. It's just a matter of will.
I agree. And I don't want people to be put off by the little carrots that are being dangled now. Before.
Well, they're masters at manipulation with language, and so and most of us don't dive deep into the weeds with this. So when the Healy administration talks about the things that they've done, which they say the same things over and over again, it's very superficial, and so you have to really, understand we're talking about those issues. If you want to have those conversations, we're more than willing to come and have the conversations in your community to demonstrate how those things actually do not help us to build the power of the people, but also the putting the wealth where it needs to go to lift people so that they're not continually in a state of struggle in perpetuity. We know what we've gotten from the first 4 years. She's an incumbent candidate. We're going to get the same and less over the next 4 years. With all that's going on in the country, why would not we pause and take a chance? Take a chance on what different looks like.
Right.
And we can do it.
And we can do it. And your lived experience speaks volumes. Why would the wealthy be concerned about us, average people? We in no way impact the quality of their life. Why would they be concerned
And
about the
they're not
average
knocking
person?
on your door. We are. So the billionaires ain't knocking on your door.
Of course they're not.
We're knocking on your door to ask for a conversation. And so let us in. Let's sit down and let's have this conversation.
Yes.
Vote for Joe.
And vote for you as well. So listen, thank you. As we close today's conversation, I want to leave with something that you can carry forward, or that our listeners can carry forward. Not just, we don't want you to be convinced, my closing words, that your voice doesn't matter, because your voice matters. We want you at the table. We want you to be engaged. And so with that, do some research, make some calls, like just kind of, get out there, get your feet wet. And it's okay if you're new to the system, it's okay. Like, let's do this together, because this is a joint effort, a community-based effort. So I thank both of you so much for being here. This is Confronting Injustice, and I wish you well, and
Thank you both so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much.